Welcome, everybody, to today's press briefing. Carolyn Levitt couldn't be here today. Unfortunately, she was found running down the road. Apparently, she'd shaved her head Britney style, saying something about, "I can't stand the lies anymore." And because SCOTUS apparently passed some law saying that they're going to initiate some kind of DEI procedure where if you can shoot better than Kid Rock and shotgun a beer faster, then you get to be press secretary. And that's why I'm here. Yes, this is eye makeup. Why do you ask? Because your mother loves it. Anyway, so let me go ahead and get to some of these first topics that I'd like to cover before we take any questions from our press pool. First off, it's reported that Robert F. Kennedy said that we should not be taking medical advice from him. The head of Health and Human Services said that we should not be taking medical advice from him. So that's sort of important for you journalists out there and so-called journalists. Kristi Noem has been reported that she did not even know the basic definition of habeas corpus. So there's that. Well, in case you didn't know, one of the other rules that were reinstated by SCOTUS was the fairness doctrine. So therefore, telling lies is no longer allowed. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why under this administration, Carolyn Levitt lost it, because she realized that she was going to have to tell the truth. Yeah, strange stuff. And that being said, party line votes going to come to bite them in the ass come midterms, apparently, according to everybody here. Yeah, it's saying everybody. These party line votes coming to bite them in the ass. That's the headline that I'm getting reported here as far as this budget reconciliation goes. In the ass, apparently. Those topics being covered, we're going to go ahead and take a few questions from the press pool. Please.
Thank you for having me. As a MAGA mom yourself, how do you interpret the significance of this report in terms of delivering measurable health improvements for Americans and their kids? And what specific actions does the administration plan to take in response to it?
Well, I appreciate you calling me a MAGA mom. I guess it must be the eyeliner. Wait a minute, aren't you Jillian Michaels? Didn't you used to sell workout VHSs? I don't know. As far as this whole MAGA thing goes, I mean, RFK is the one who might be in charge of it. He said, don't take medical advice from him. Also, the dude swims in sewage. So as far as this MAGA thing goes, remember when Michelle Obama tried to get other people to eat healthy? And your side apparently decided to go apoplectic. So as far as MAGA goes, that's my answer. Next.
Related questions for you. On the president's dinner tonight, White House commit to making a list of the attendees public so people can see who's paying for that kind of access to the president?
No. I mean, come on. Think about it. There's 200 of the richest people in crypto, and they're getting a chance to meet one-on-one with President Trump and get a chance to also work out deals in the future. So I don't think there's going to be any level of transparency. Open corruption is kind of this administration's thing. Like I said, fairness doctrine is in there. We can't lie anymore. So we have to go ahead and tell you the truth. And so that's kind of the official stance, I guess. Next.
Qatari aircraft, the Air Force has said they're going to classify all the information about the work that has to get done to bring it up to snuff to be Air Force One. Previous Air Force One contracts, including the one that the president entered into in 2018, are public. That's available knowledge. Will the White House commit to releasing who's doing that work and the cost of it?
No. Why would we ever release anything that would show the taxpayers what anything costs? That's kind of like not what we do here. Yeah, as far as the plane goes, we took that. We're calling it a contribution to the Defense Department, but we actually all know it's just Trump's flying fuck palace. Once more, fairness doctrine, not my fault. Anyway, no, we're not going to release that. I appreciate you asking, but that's kind of not our thing. That's just not really what we do. Thanks, I guess.
To see if there are any records here that would contradict what we've been told about Joe Biden's decline.
Yeah, I'm as far as Biden goes, you got to really look at what he actually handed Trump. I know that you're really, really into this whole he is mentally unfit, but, you know, he didn't wreck the world economy, and he didn't have people disappearing off the streets. We realized that you need to distract from what's going on with this thing. But I'm pretty sure that you have Biden derangement syndrome because... yeah, just take a look at the numbers that he handed Trump.
President Trump says that he basically thinks unelected Biden staffers concealed his decline so that they could use the levers of power for their own personal gain.
Well, as we know with this administration, every accusation is a confession. So more than likely, that's exactly what Trump did. And he's trying to distract from this by pointing at Biden. Well, I appreciate the question, but that's going to be the answer you're going to get.
Did anyone in the White House or in the White House counsel's office advise the president against holding this sweepstakes, whereby people who spent the most money on his Trump coin would then have access to the president at this dinner?
Oh, no, not at all. We actually think the more openly corrupt this administration is, the better. I think that it's important that you ask questions like this so we can let you know that there's absolutely zero chance of you getting any transparency and zero chance of us. I think that probably the word that you would want us to use is discouraging this president. And we're not going to do that. Come on.
That he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president show that? It's not true that the video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
Yeah, he showed that video because it's a lie. And he wants to push this kind of white victimhood thing going on by pointing out that there's some fake genocide going on in South Africa and ignoring countries like the Congo and Sudan where there's actual genocide. But this is really important, is that the base, they get fed their red meat, and also they get their victim complex fed too. It's really important. So that this whole narrative works for that. We know they were not actually grave sites in South Africa, but actually grave sites in the Congo, which, once more, we don't bring in those refugees. You kind of know. Stephen Miller, yeah. That's what he said.
A lot of the Republican senators have promised amendments that will water this thing down dramatically. What is the president's level of tolerance for their amendments to water it down, and what will be the action taken for some of the amendments that the president does not want?
Well, first off, anybody that gives him any sort of disagreement, they're going to get primaried. That's the obvious answer. But also, more than likely, he'll probably send his cult after them to send them probably threats to them and their families, or they have compromise on them, or it's one of the two. The president has this whole thing where if you disagree with him, he's going to make your life terrible because this administration's sort of a cult along with its base. And, the lies start from the top, and if any of them are proven to be wrong, the whole thing crumbles. The only reason I'm saying this is fairness doctrine.
No tax on Social Security. Now, due to congressional rules, that wasn't able to be included in this bill. How does the president plan to follow through on that campaign promise?
There's the whole no tax on tips, no tax on social. Yeah, those were just lies. Yeah, lies to get him elected, because if he didn't get elected, he was going to go to jail. And so therefore he would tell anybody anything, including the whole, what do I have here? Lowering groceries on day one. Yeah. So those were just lies. Yeah. Campaign lies. They're not in the bill. The bill just takes money away from the poor and gives it to the rich. It's kind of what we do around here.
Does the president think that they should be primaried?
Of course, the president thinks they should be primaried because, once more, cult.
About Social Security, the bill includes the president's promises to address taxes on tips and overtime. Could you say his feelings about the income cap? Is he satisfied where that landed? And also on a different matter, could you comment on the investigation that the Justice Department has into Andrew Cuomo?
Well, we're not sure exactly about Andrew Cuomo because he did the whole quid pro quo thing with Eric Adams, so we can't really talk about that because that's kind of like their thing, so we don't really talk about that because, But Epstein files, we've been wanting to release those, but they've kind of been redacted, if you know what I mean. Next.
Shake up FEMA leadership just a week before hurricane season?
Oh, the NOAA cuts? Yeah, that was because of Doge. They went in, they got our money, they got our data. Yeah, anything that they wanted, they got. But they blamed it on, it was government efficiency. So one of the things they did is they cut down NOAA. So therefore, we don't really have a whole lot of weather forecasting, which is used to save lives. But, got to have that government efficiency because can't have one yacht plane. They need two. And I also think that as part of the Big Beautiful Bill, there was an extra yacht plane included for each of them. Next.
In the bill, promising someone else will cut spending in the future does not cut spending. Deficits do matter, and this bill grows them. Why should that get a Republican primary?
Oh, because he told the truth. We don't do that. I know they pretend to be deficit hawks, but the thing is that when it comes down to when they vote, they kind of just go with Trump. It's a lot of lip service to give you hope to think that maybe they actually care about their constituents, but we don't do that around here. We say that we do. We care about our constituents, but it's actually we just more money for the rich. Next.
What is the president doing to win Senate passage by July 4th? And does that include work to eliminate carried interest and make business tax cuts permanent? Where is he on those issues?
Oh, the only tax cuts that are really happening are going to be for the ultra rich paid for by the poor in this bill. We're not sure what's going to happen in the Senate, but more than likely, because this administration is a cult, it's going to go through. They're going to do a bunch of grandstanding and saying they don't like, once more, like I said earlier with the deficit hawks, they're going to claim that they could never vote for this kind of thing, but they're going to vote for it. Next.
What assurances did he give the Freedom Caucus members to kind of ensure that this would get through last night? Was changes to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac part of that equation, changes administratively to Medicaid as well?
Well, most important are the Medicaid cuts because that's what's supposed to pay for the rich to have the extra yacht plane and the extra bonuses for ICE too. That's really important. But I'm so glad you mentioned Medicaid because that's actually one of the main things in SNAP that we're taking money from and giving it to the, yeah, I'd suppose the 1%. That's a good way to put it, or at least the people that have been donating at that crypto dinner. Next.
The Netanyahu call, just curious, did the president raise the flow of aid into Gaza? Is he happy with where that situation is right now?
As far as Netanyahu and the flow into aid of Gaza goes, this administration really doesn't care what happens as long as we get our casinos. Yeah, that was the deal with Netanyahu. You saw the AI video that the administration put out about Trump Gaza. Yeah, that was the original plan. We realized that we did have a lot of Palestinian voters and people in Michigan who thought we were going to turn Gaza into a really, really tacky version of Las Vegas, because we are kind of on this whole like Biff Tannen got the future almanac timeline. So that's where we're at as far as that situation goes. Aid, if it's going to get in the way of the casinos getting built, you're going to have to take that up with Netanyahu.
Did you have any reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling about the religious charter school today, as well as Justice Coney Barrett's decision to recuse herself?
Well, we were really surprised that Amy Coney Barrett didn't vote in, because we figured if there was anyone who would be all about being part of a religious charter school, aside from Alito, obviously, would be Barrett as the... Well, just go ahead and look into her past. There's not a whole lot of things that we like to disclose about our Supreme Court justices that aren't easily found online. But as far as the passage of that goes, it just seems that maybe for now, we're going to hold off on making the schools for profits. We're kind of in the middle of dismantling the Department of Education, even though we've got injunction from judges to say we can't do it. So give us time. Give us time.
Dinner, but the president is always the president, and the Trump family is making money off of this. So can you just explain, how is this not the president using the office to enrich himself?
Well, they're kind of using their personal time to hold this crypto dinner. And I was told, unfortunately, that with us getting to use that answer, is that I suppose that makes him indictable. This was just the answer we were given. But of course, once more, the people that come are there to buy influence. And because it's on his personal time, he may be indictable. Once more, fairness doctrine. Don't hold me to it. Next.
Last week, the president told Brett Baer that he trusts his people, but thinks that the official narrative on his assassination attempts are, quote, a little bit odd. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said days later that there's no conspiracy to find, and as he put it, quote, the there that you're looking for is not there.
Well, most importantly is that it's pointed out that there hasn't been any discussion about the assassination since it happened, or any discussion about the assassin, even though this administration runs on victimhood. We have been told that we don't really talk about that since the election happened. Kind of a sore spot for the administration. Sore spot. Sore spot. Next.
The big beautiful bill. Do you or President Trump have a message to politicians like Ilhan Omar, who only this morning explicitly avoided condemning this act of terror?
We appreciate you asking that. One of the things under the fairness doctrine we have to point out is when acts of terror mentioned, we also have to point out the Proud Boys and also ICE yanking people off the streets. We haven't really wanted to have to talk about this, but once more, this whole fairness doctrine thing. So it's possibly being talked about that the Proud Boys are being considered a gang. It's just loose rumblings. But as far as the assassination that happened this morning, should not have happened. Political violence is not acceptable. This administration, any administration, we condemn it. Fairness doctrine, this administration condemns some.
Included that defunds Planned Parenthood, not only because of the fact that it's the nation's largest abortion provider, but also because it's, I think, the biggest distributor of transgender hormones right now, even to minors, according to Live Action. So is the president committed to making sure that provision stays in the Senate?
First thing is, under the fairness doctrine, we have to ask, why is it that the conservative side of the reporters are obsessed with people's genitals? It's more their pockets that we're concerned with, and that they're being robbed to pay for the rich in the big, beautiful bill. Once more, we're not concerned about people's genitals. Next.
You mentioned at the top of the briefing that the migrants were to be sent to a third country. I was just wondering, could you share any more on, which countries the administration has struck these agreements with, and what that agreement with South Sudan specifically looks like?
Oh, we're not going to tell you, first off, because there's so much money to be made. And once that money is made, where that goes, we're not going to tell you either. We are going to keep picking up people who don't deserve it and ignoring the Supreme Court and sending them to wherever makes us the most money. We appreciate you asking that question. Thank you. We really do appreciate you asking. In conclusion, we would like to point out, for our wrap up, since Trump took office 123 days ago, gas prices are up, grocery prices are up, stock market is down, Ukraine, Russia is still at war, Israel, Hamas is still at war, inflation's still here, recession odds are skyrocketing, the Epstein client list still not released. So in general, we would like to point out that history will record that America died of terminal greed and end-stage stupidity. Thank you.